Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story TV and the Her Story Podcast. This is Gertrude Matcha here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome to our tribe. Before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. So, this is a traditional thing that you do if you are based here in Australia. I feel very privileged to be in this beautiful country, on this land, able to share the stories of the amazing women who are in our network right now. So, welcome, Barbara. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Hi, my name is Barbara Jacques, and I'm based out of Miami, Florida. I'm in my early 40s, and I am the founder of JACQ'S, a vegan and sustainable skincare line created for women of color. About 9.5 years ago, my husband and I learned that we were expecting our daughter. And upon learning that we were expecting her, I found out that I had an ovarian tumor. I've always been into more or less a holistic lifestyle, being a conscious consumer. But it wasn't until I learned that I had this illness that I began to take a closer look at what I was eating. Upon that research, I stumbled upon a medical journal talking about the systematic effects certain ingredients have on your overall health. And I just started to take a closer look in terms of the things that I was putting on my skin, in addition to in my body. I also learned that Black women and Latin women and women of color are exposed to twice the amount of toxins in beauty care products. So I just felt compelled to just make my own skincare products as a way to kind of cope with my own illness and what I was going through. And out of that, I created JACQ'S. It's since evolved into a skincare line focused on promoting self-love, self-care, but teaching women of all skin tones and skin types to love their skin just the way it is. We also source products, ingredients that are vegan, and the packaging is also sustainable. But most importantly, we actually focus on addressing skincare concerns for women of color like hyperpigmentation, acne, and protecting your skin as you age. And so that is what I've created, and this is my story.
It's absolutely wonderful to have you with us today. Thank you for coming online and sharing the story. How did things go for you medically after you discovered this diagnosis?
Since having her, I had the tumor removed and I had to have a C-section at the same time. What that taught me was that to just be aware of what I was putting into my body. I've since learned that I had a chicken intolerance and a soy intolerance, because at the time, my conception of eating whole foods was a large amount of processed soy, and my body began to build an intolerance, and that made me even more sick. It was feeding my tumor and my fibroids. And so as a result of that, I have since I no longer eat that, but it just made me become appreciative of the life that I was creating for myself, the life that I created for my child, and to just become more present and to live every day more appreciatively.
They say that food is medicine, and a lot of times we don't realize we eat very unconsciously. We put food in our mouths and we don't actually pay attention to what it is and what's the impact. But I think the biggest organ we have is our skin.
Mm-hmm.
We are putting stuff in our hair, we're putting lotions on our faces. And you're right, Black women do tend to be the most exposed. We do put a lot of lotion, and again, people are doing it without being aware of what it can do to your health. So tell us a little bit about your product, what makes it different, what is it made of?
Yeah, I could definitely go into that. But one point that you did mention in terms of women of color being, or particularly Black women being exposed to the twice the amount of toxins is ultimately our hair is different and our skin is different from our counterparts. And so we tend to get our hair done more often. And when you're, I remember growing up in the 80s where you would typically go see a hairdresser every couple of weeks if you had a perm, right? And so if you're processing and using twice, if you're going to see this esthetician, excuse me, not this esthetician, but this hairdresser twice the amount of times than our counterparts, of course, you're going to be exposed to it twice as much. And then also when you talk about the ingredients that are in the products that mimic the estrogen hormone, that are carcinogenic, that are linked to hormone disruptors, that is even more toxic in a sense that we're using even daily. So on an average, I believe women use about 14 products in the morning alone. And so if you're using 14 products in the morning, and if you have melanated skin where you may be applying a moisturizer in the middle of the day and then doing that again at night, that can cause even more long-term effects to your and harm to your body. What we use in our products. So our products was inspired because my parents are from the Caribbean and I grew up here in Miami, where I'm surrounded by a mass or different cultures. We use vegan products, but the inspiration has to do with my Caribbean background. And so growing up in the islands or living in a tropical environment where jackfruit is readily available, papaya, hibiscus, plantains, yucca, those are the main ingredients or some of the main ingredients that are in the collection and the formulations that inspired the line. So if you ever get a chance to get your hands on the products and you smell the herbal infusion that is in it, you'll feel like you're in the tropics because the inspiration behind that is using those antioxidant rich ingredients that would actually feed, repair, and heal your skin. And oftentimes when I'm talking about skincare, when we talk about melanated skin or women of color, I don't like to use the word anti-aging because we tend to age differently where we don't have fine lines. Where we typically have fine lines, we don't have wrinkles. Our skin kind of ages in a different way as a result of the melanin. I like to say we at JACQ'S like to protect our skin as we age because ultimately you can't reverse aging. And so anti-aging is counterproductive. But if you can protect your skin as you age, you can preserve the youthfulness in your skin if you know how to properly, right? And so using ingredients sourced from the earth, using sustainable packaging that would actually help preserve the formulations and not harm the earth, that is how we are choosing to make a difference with the JACQ'S product line.
So your product is totally eco-friendly, the packaging, the contents. And I love the fact that you went back to your roots. This is probably something you grew up seeing, experiencing, and taking for granted when you're there in the islands. I know I'm from Zimbabwe, and I actually didn't know the meaning of the word organic until I left and started living in the UK. And I ate an apple that looked nice on the outside, but tasted nothing like an apple I'd ever tasted before. So it's awesome that you're drawing on that strength as well. So your business has been going for a couple of years. If you were to give advice to another entrepreneur who's online right now, listening in and is scared of starting a new business, fearful of going down this road, what has been your experience? What nuggets of wisdom could you share today?
Oh my gosh. So first thing first, the first thing that comes to mind when I first started my business was I sought out a mentor. I have a background in communications and delving into the world of beauty was very new to me. And so finding someone that would help me navigate and understand and sort of figure out what I wanted to do, why I wanted to do it, and be able to um, execute that in a way where it was visually appealing, that reached the masses, and also um, resulted in sales and converting customers and building a community around me was very helpful. Number two, I would say have a game plan, and focus on creating a brand that would actually resonate with their ideal customers. Because I remember first, very early on, I was creating the products for myself, and I'm not the typical customer. I don't really, what attracts me to a product is not so much the packaging, um, but more so the quality. And I was creating the products for myself, and I wasn't hitting the right, I wasn't doing it correctly. So research who your customer is, because you're not selling to yourself, you're selling to different people. And then mind your finances, because that is a very important part of growing and sustaining a business, which is your finances. And then number two, the importance of self-care and disconnecting, because I think one of the problems that I do have is that I'm always focused on business, business, business. And then I forget, or I'm not so much forget, but I have to remind myself to unplug and to be present with my family. Because when I get focused, laser focused, I tend to block everything out just to complete the task. But none of this would be worthwhile if you don't have the people in your life to share it with. So practicing self-care, because often I think we live in a world where burnout is celebrated, and restoring peace of mind or just getting rest and sleep just to unplug and recharge your brain and your body is important.
Yeah, self-care for most women is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
We are busy looking after families, we're going to work. It's even worse when you have a business and everything is relying on you. So, what is your daily practice that keeps you focused so you remember your family? Do you schedule appointments? I remember when I was creating my first business, I had appointments with each of my three kids separately.
Oh, wow.
Every, yeah, so that I would just remember just to spend an hour with each one of them every day. So, what have you done to find that balance?
For me, honestly, it's a matter of just unplugging. After, I feel like the older I get, the less my brain is able to sit in front of a computer for an extended period of time. So when I get home, even if I have the computer open and if my family's there, I'll just push it to the side and just be present. And I just feel like the nights you can't replace, you just can't replace certain time with them. And if I feel that, it's often just reading the room. So if I feel like, okay, my entire family's in this space and I'm on the computer, it's just selfish. So I would just unplug and get back to it, because at the end of the day, emails and those tasks can wait till tomorrow. In the mornings, I make it a priority to take my daughter to school in the morning, so that I get that time to just reconnect with her, find out what's going on in her world, check in with her and her, how her emotions doing, how she's doing. And then from time to time, we have a system where my husband tends to pick her up from after school, where I would actually just pick her up so I can spend a little bit more time with her. And with my husband, we do date nights or couples, double dating with couples. And we often sometimes work out together, not in a while, but we tend to work out together, or just spend time with family and friends, which are kind of like the things that I like to do to just replenish my energy, just being around the people that I love, either very close friends and family members. And those are the things I find that scheduling don't always work out, like plotting it into a calendar, because you just don't know what may happen. But just being able to read the room, if I need to be present, I'll just shut it down, and just reschedule my calls or reschedule my meetings. But
Yeah.
at the top of my list comes my family. So for me, I've learned the hard way that it is very important to make time for myself and make time for my family.
I love that. I got a small video clip from one of my sons, my oldest son, yesterday, he saw this woman sitting braiding her son's hair. And he said to me, Mom, do you remember the hours we used to spend when you did my hair? So I have two boys who had dreadlocks. And you know what it's like with our hair. That would be a whole day's work. And
Mm-hmm.
driving them to school. My kids could have got on the train and got to school in 12 minutes. But I would sit in traffic for an hour every
Mm.
day to go and drop them off and pick them up. And with boys, it's more challenging because they don't talk. But when I had them,
Mm-hmm.
they had to talk to me. So they were my captive audience, and people thought I was.
Exactly. They don't have anywhere to go, so they're forced to sit there, and you can just say, "Well, what's really going on?" You can ask
Yes.
those questions. Well, why do you think that happened? And just figure out what's going on in their world, because they may not act like they appreciate it, but they do.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It was funny because my son just sent this video yesterday saying, I love you, Mom. I remember these days. And I thought, oh, okay. You did appreciate it. But at the time, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't look like it. So now let me take you into the future.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have a conversation with the future you, this amazing entrepreneur who created this fantastic business. I know that one of your passions is to talk about Black women's buying power. Let's go a little into that and what that means to you. But if you are 100 and you're now sitting in your rocking chair with your grandchildren and great grandchildren, reflecting back on your life and what you want to do with this business, and if you could have a conversation with that future woman who's created this, what would you ask her?
Um, First, before I would ask her anything, I would have to say, um, you know, I see you, because I feel like oftentimes those long nights, those early mornings where you're in the trenches by yourself, or sometimes it feels lonely as an entrepreneur, that you're not seen, you're sending out emails, you're doing cold calls, you're trying to do as much as you possibly can to cut through the clutter, and oftentimes the work seems overlooked, or you just don't feel seen. And I would like to tell her, um, I see you and thank you for not giving up. um, I don't think I would have anything to ask her, because I feel like it was all worth it at the end of the day, creating this product line and using my story as a voice to bring attention to um, the disparity in terms of beauty globally, and then being able to create a legacy for a immigrant child, and have her children watch her strive and work past the hurdles to be able to create a business that was thriving, um, and that changed lives. So I wouldn't be more so a question. It would be more of a pat on the back, because I do know personally that the entrepreneur journey is challenging, even more challenging as a woman of color, where you're qualified, but you have to work twice or three times, sometimes four times harder. And it may seem like you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you can't see it because you're in the, you're in the thick of it. But at the end of the day, I feel like our customers and our work, when I look back and see what I've done, that I'm proud of myself. And so that's what I would tell 100-year-old Barbara, is that I'm proud of you and thank you for the sacrifice.
Oh, that is beautiful. That's absolutely fantastic. So now where can people buy your products? I know you have a website. And how can people find you if they want advice?
Yes, please email me. You can always email me at Barbara, Barbara, at shopjacq's.com. You can purchase our products on our website at shopjacq's.com as well. And you can also purchase our products on target.com.
Fantastic. So there's multiple places where they can find you. Well,
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for coming online and gracing us with your presence today. It always excites me when I see a young entrepreneur on the rise. And I would love to keep in touch with you and see how this project goes a year or 2 years from now.
Thank
And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. The Her Story movement is attracting some phenomenal young women, young and old. Come back again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Barbara, thanks again for this interview.
And thank you for having me.